My name is Sarah, and I'm 28 years old. Last month, I discovered my brother Marcus was getting married when I saw the wedding photos on Facebook. I wasn't invited. When I confronted him, he said his fiancée Emma didn't want me there because I was too dramatic. But what they didn't know was that I had been secretly documenting Emma's affair with my ex-boyfriend for months. The wedding they thought was their perfect day became the stage for the most satisfying revenge I've ever orchestrated. By the time the reception ended, their marriage was over. Emma was exposed as a serial cheater, and my family finally saw who she really was. Before we dive into this wild family drama, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Are you Team Justice, or do you think I went too far? Hit that like button if you're ready for some serious family revenge tea, and don't forget to subscribe, because trust me, this story has more twists than a soap opera. Growing up, Marcus and I were inseparable. He was only 2 years older, but he always acted like my protector. When our parents divorced when I was 15, we leaned on each other through the chaos. We shared inside jokes, defended each other against our moms, new boyfriends, criticisms, and promised we'd always have each other's backs no matter what. That bond started cracking when Marcus met Emma 3 years ago at a marketing conference in Chicago. She was everything I wasn't: blonde, petite, with this sweet southern accent that made grown men melt. From day one, something felt off about her, but Marcus was completely smitten. She'd bat her eyelashes, and suddenly my intelligent, level-headed brother turned into a lovesick puppy. The first red flag came 6 months into their relationship. Marcus and I had planned a weekend trip to visit our dad in Oregon, something we'd done every year since the divorce. 2 days before we were supposed to leave, Marcus called to cancel. "Emma needs me," he said. "Her grandmother is sick." Later, I saw Emma's Instagram stories from that same weekend. She was at a beach resort with her girlfriends, clearly not at any hospital. When I pointed this out to Marcus, he got defensive. "You don't understand Emma like I do," he snapped. "She's sensitive, and she was really worried about her grandmother." The trip was planned before the emergency. I let it slide, but something bitter settled in my chest. The incidents piled up slowly. Family dinners where Emma would make subtle digs about my job as a freelance graphic designer. "Oh, Sarah's still doing her little art projects," she'd say with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Isn't that sweet?" Marcus never corrected her, never defended me. He'd just squeeze her hand and change the subject. Then came the birthday incident. My 27th birthday fell on a Saturday, and Marcus had promised to take me to our favorite steakhouse, a tradition we'd maintained since college. That morning, he texted me, "Sorry, Em planned a surprise for us today. Rain check." The surprise, I learned from social media, was a couple's spa day. My birthday tradition was sacrificed for cucumber facials and hot stone massages. Each time I tried to talk to Marcus about feeling excluded, he'd turn it around on me. "You're being jealous," he'd say. "Emma's going to be family. You need to make an effort." But every effort I made was met with Emma's passive-aggressive resistance. When I invited them to my housewarming party, she spent the entire evening critiquing my decorating choices to other guests. When I suggested we all go see a movie Marcus and I both loved, she'd suddenly develop a headache. The final straw before everything imploded was last Christmas. Our family always did gift exchanges on Christmas Eve, another sacred tradition. Emma insisted they host at her apartment instead of our mom's house, to start their own traditions as a couple. Fine, I thought. I could adapt. I arrived with thoughtful gifts: a first edition book for Marcus, expensive skincare products for Emma. Emma handed me a gift bag with a drugstore candle and a card that said, "To Sarah," with no personal message. Marcus got a custom watch with an engraving and a weekend getaway to Napa Valley. But the real gut punch came when Emma started talking about their wedding plans in front of everyone. She discussed venues, dress shopping with her sisters, and bachelor party ideas with Marcus' college friends. She detailed everything except my role in any of it. When I asked about bridesmaid dresses, Emma's smile turned razor sharp. "Oh, we're keeping the wedding party small. Just family, you know." I was family. I was Marcus' only sister. But somehow, in Emma's definition, I didn't qualify. That night, I confronted Marcus privately. "Where do I fit in your wedding?" I asked directly. He couldn't meet my eyes. "Em thinks it might be better if you're not in the wedding party," he mumbled. "It's nothing personal. She just wants everything to be perfect." "What about me being there at all?" I pressed. His silence told me everything. I was being erased from my own brother's wedding, and he was letting it happen. The brother who used to punch kids who made me cry was now standing by while his fiancée systematically removed me from his life. That's when I decided to start paying closer attention to Emma. If she wanted to play games, I'd learn the rules. What I discovered would change everything. The morning after that devastating Christmas conversation, I made a decision that would alter the course of all our lives. If Emma wanted to treat me like an outsider, fine. But outsiders have the advantage of seeing things others miss. I started watching Emma the way a private investigator watches a suspect, and what I found made my blood run cold. It started with social media deep dives. Emma's Instagram painted the picture of a perfect relationship: couple selfies, romantic dinner dates, weekend adventures with Marcus. But her tagged photos told a different story. In the background of her girls' night posts, I started noticing the same male figure: tall, dark hair, familiar jawline. It took me 3 weeks of careful scrolling to confirm my suspicions. It was Jake, my ex-boyfriend from college. Jake and I had dated for 2 years before he cheated on me with his study partner. The breakup was messy, public, and humiliating. Marcus had been there for me through every tear-soaked night, every angry rant about Jake's lies and manipulation. Marcus knew exactly who Jake was and what had done to me. There was no way Emma's connection to him was coincidental. I created a fake Instagram account, Chicago Foodie 23, and started following Emma's friends. Through their stories and tags, I pieced together a timeline that made me sick. Emma and Jake had been seeing each other for at least 8 months, well before Marcus proposed. They were careful, but not careful enough. A photo from Emma's friend Rachel showed them holding hands at a Cubs game in July. Another from her coworker Ashley captured them kissing at a rooftop bar in August. But I needed more than Instagram evidence. I needed something concrete, undeniable. That's when I remembered Emma's habit of working late at the marketing firm where she and Marcus first met. Shed often used these late nights as excuses for why she couldn't make family dinners or weekend plans. Big client presentation. Shed sighed dramatically. You know how it is. I decided to verify her late-night work claims. The marketing firm's building had a public coffee shop on the ground floor that stayed open until midnight. I started making evening visits, positioning myself where I could see the parking garage exit. The first 3 nights yielded nothing. Emma's car wasn't even in the garage. On the 4th night, I hit the jackpot. At 9:15 p.m., Emma's white BMW pulled out of the garage. But instead of heading home to Marcus, she drove straight to Jake's apartment complex across town. I followed at a distance, my heart hammering as she used a key to let herself into his building. She didn't leave until almost midnight. I documented everything. Photos of her car in Jake's parking lot, screenshots of her Instagram story from that same night claiming she was burning the midnight oil at work, time-stamped evidence of her lies. But I still needed more to ensure my revenge would be complete and devastating. The breakthrough came through Emma's own carelessness. During a family dinner where she was particularly cruel, making snide comments about my unstable freelance income, she left her phone face up on the table when she went to the bathroom. A text notification popped up from Jay that read, "Can't wait for your loser brother-in-law to be officially gone after the wedding. Then we won't have to sneak around anymore." My hands shook as I quickly photographed the message. The timestamp, the contact name, the preview text, it was all there. Emma wasn't just cheating on Marcus. She was actively counting down the days until she could dump him and be with Jake openly. The wedding wasn't a celebration of love. It was her exit strategy. That night, I called Jake from a burner phone app, disguising my voice. "Is this Jake Morrison?" I asked. When he confirmed, I continued, "This is regarding your relationship with Emma Patterson. I'm calling to verify some information for a background check she's undergoing for a promotion at work. Can you confirm how long you two have been romantically involved?" Jake, apparently thinking this was legitimate, freely admitted they'd been together for over a year. "She's amazing," he gushed. "I can't wait until she's done with this whole marriage charade and we can be together properly." He even mentioned specific dates, hotels they'd stayed at, and future plans they'd made together. I recorded every word, but Emma's betrayal went deeper than just adultery. Through careful questioning of mutual acquaintances, I learned Shed been systematically poisoning Marcus' relationships with everyone who might threaten her control. Shed told his college friends that Marcus thought they were immature and didn't want them at the wedding. Shed convinced his favorite cousin that Marcus was embarrassed by his family's modest income. Shed isolated him so thoroughly that by the time she was ready to leave him, he'd have no support system left. The most damaging evidence came from Emma herself. During a wine-fueled girls' night that her friend accidentally live-streamed on Instagram, Emma confessed her entire plan. "Marcus is so easy to manipulate," she laughed. "He thinks he's getting the perfect wife, but I'm just using him for financial security until Jake gets his promotion. The poor idiot is paying for a wedding that's basically my going-away party." Her friends laughed along, making jokes about Marcus' pathetic devotion and placing bets on how long it would take him to realize had been played. Someone even suggested Emma should clean out his accounts before she left. Emma's response chilled me to the bone. "Already working on it. He gave me access to everything after the proposal. What a trusting little puppy. I had everything I needed: financial fraud, adultery, emotional manipulation, and conspiracy to commit theft." Emma thought she was so smart, so careful, so untouchable. But Shed made one crucial mistake. Shed underestimated the sister Shed tried so hard to erase. The wedding was 6 weeks away, and I had a plan that would ensure Emma got exactly what she deserved. Just not in the way she expected. 2 weeks before the wedding, I made the decision that would set everything in motion. I couldn't just expose Emma privately to Marcus. Shed already proven too skilled at manipulation, too quick with explanations and tears. No, this needed to be public, undeniable, and devastating. She wanted a perfect wedding day? It'd give her one Shed never forget. First, I had to ensure I'd be at the wedding, despite not being invited. Emma had made it clear that I wasn't welcome, but Shed overlooked something crucial. Marcus' best friend Ryan had been my friend first. We'd met in high school, and stayed close even after he and Marcus bonded over baseball in college. Ryan was also the wedding photographer, hired because Emma wanted to keep costs down with friends. When I approached Ryan with a carefully edited version of my concerns about Emma, he was surprisingly receptive. "I never liked her," he admitted over coffee. "Something about her always felt fake, but Marcus is so happy. You know." I showed him just enough evidence: photos of Emma with Jake, screenshots of contradictory social media posts, to plant seeds of doubt without revealing my full hand. "I just want to make sure Marcus doesn't make the biggest mistake of his life," I told him. "But I can't do that if I'm not there." Ryan agreed to add me to his photography crew as a second shooter. Emma would have no choice but to tolerate my presence, since Ryan insisted he needed help covering such an important day. Next, I needed the perfect moment for maximum impact. Wedding ceremonies are sacred, protected spaces where disruption feels almost sacrilegious. But the reception? That's when people are relaxed, emotional, vulnerable. That's when guards are down and truth hits hardest. I reached out to Marcus' college friend David, who was giving the best man speech. David had been one of Emma's early victims. Shed convinced Marcus that David was jealous of their relationship and had successfully limited their contact. When I showed him Emma's recorded confession about manipulating Marcus' friendships, David's anger was swift and righteous. "She made Marcus think I resented his happiness," David said, his jaw clenched. "I've been wondering why he's been so distant. That manipulative witch has been pulling his strings this whole time." We coordinated our timing. David would give his speech as planned, but I would be ready with my revelation immediately afterward, when everyone was still gathered and emotional. The technical setup was crucial. I created a comprehensive digital presentation with all my evidence: photos, videos, text message, screenshots, bank records showing Emma's suspicious withdrawals, and audio recordings of her confessions. I arranged for multiple backup systems: cloud storage, USB drives, even printed copies in case technology failed. Emma was tech-savvy and vindictive. I couldn't risk her finding a way to suppress the evidence, but the most delicate part of my plan involved Jake himself. I needed him at the wedding, not as a guest, but as undeniable proof of Emma's betrayal. Using the same burner app, I called Jake 3 days before the wedding with devastating news. Emma had been in a terrible car accident and was in the hospital, asking for him. "Which hospital?" He panicked. "Is she okay? Oh God. I should have been with her instead of letting her go through with this stupid wedding charade." "Street Mary's downtown," I lied smoothly. "But Jake, she's very worried about Marcus becoming suspicious. She needs you to come to the wedding tomorrow as planned. Act normal, and then you two can leave together afterward. She has a plan, but she needs you there to execute it." Jake, desperate to see Emma and convinced this was part of some elaborate scheme Shed orchestrated, agreed immediately. He even thanked me for calling, thinking I was one of Emma's friends helping with their secret plan. The night before the wedding, I could barely sleep. Everything was in place, but the weight of what I was about to do pressed down on me like a physical force. I wasn't just exposing Emma's lies. I was destroying my brother's wedding day, his trust, his heart. The rational part of my mind knew he deserved the truth, but the sister in me ached for the pain I was about to cause him. The morning of the wedding dawned crisp and clear. The venue was a restored historic mansion with gardens that looked like something from a fairy tale. Emma had chosen it specifically for its Instagram potential. According to her maid of honor, as I arrived with Ryan's photography equipment, I watched the final preparations unfold with a surreal sense of detachment. Emma looked stunning in her ivory gown, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. She was playing the part of the blushing bride to perfection, accepting congratulations and compliments with practiced grace. Watching her hug my mother, seeing my mom's genuine affection for the woman who was systematically destroying our family, made my resolve steel itself. Marcus looked happier than I'd seen him in months. His smile was radiant, his eyes bright with love and anticipation. He kept checking his phone for messages, probably hoping for last-minute well wishes. He had no idea that in a few hours, his entire world would collapse. The ceremony itself was beautiful and heartbreaking. Marcus' vows were sincere and passionate, promising unconditional love and lifelong devotion to a woman who was already planning to abandon him. Emma's vows were perfectly crafted lies, delivered with just the right amount of emotion to seem genuine. I watched through my camera lens, documenting their promises while knowing the truth that would soon shatter them. As the newlyweds kissed and the crowd erupted in applause, I spotted Jake in the back of the venue. Had arrived just as I'd instructed, looking confused but determined. Emma saw him too. Her face went white for just a moment before she recovered her composure. She thought she could manage this, control the situation like she controlled everything else. She had no idea that her perfect plan was about to become her perfect downfall. During cocktail hour, I made my final preparations while Emma worked the room like a politician. She was in her element, accepting congratulations and admiration, basking in the attention of being the perfect bride. Marcus stayed close to her side, introducing her to relatives as my beautiful wife with such pride that it physically hurt to witness. But I also noticed the cracks in her performance, the way she kept glancing toward Jake, who was maintaining his distance as instructed. The slight tension in her shoulders when my mother pulled her aside for a heartfelt conversation about welcoming her to the family officially. The brief moment of panic, when Marcus suggested they visit his grandfather, who'd been too frail to attend but was waiting at home to meet his new granddaughter-in-law. Everything was perfect. Emma thought she was in control, Marcus was blissfully happy, and the guests were celebrating what they believed was a beautiful union. The stage was set for the most satisfying moment of justice I'd ever orchestrated. Time to give everyone a wedding they'd never forget. The reception hall buzzed with laughter and celebration as guests settled in for dinner. Emma had outdone herself with the decorations. Crystal chandeliers cast romantic light over tables adorned with white roses and gold accents. She moved through the room like a queen holding court, accepting praise for her perfect taste and dream wedding. Marcus beamed beside her, his arm protectively around her waist, introducing his new wife to distant relatives who'd traveled from across the country. I positioned myself strategically near the audio-visual equipment, my heart pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. Ryan gave me a subtle nod. He was ready with backup equipment in case Emma tried to interfere with the presentation. David caught my eye from the head table and tapped his watch. We were minutes away from the speeches, minutes away from everything changing forever. Emma's maid of honor, Jessica, kicked off the speeches with a generic but heartfelt tribute to their friendship since college. She shared cute stories about Emma's perfectionist tendencies and her determination to find true love. The irony wasn't lost on me. Emma's determination had led her to find love, just not with the man she'd married 3 hours earlier. Marcus' cousin gave a short, sweet speech about family and new beginnings. Our Uncle Robert shared embarrassing childhood stories about Marcus that had everyone laughing. Each speech built the warm, celebratory atmosphere higher, making what was coming feel like more of a betrayal of the entire gathering. But these people deserved the truth, especially my family members who'd already started planning future holidays and gatherings that would include Emma. Then David stood up, champagne flute in hand, his expression carefully neutral. "I've known Marcus since freshman year of college," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the silent room. "He's the most loyal, honest, caring person I've ever met. He deserves nothing but the best in life, which is why I'm so happy he's found someone who truly appreciates those qualities." Emma preened under the praise, not catching the subtle emphasis David placed on truly appreciates. Marcus squeezed her hand, his eyes shining with emotion and alcohol. The guests murmured approval, raising their glasses in preparation for the traditional toast. Marcus, David continued, you've always been the kind of person who sees the best in everyone, sometimes even when it's not there. Your capacity for trust and love is remarkable, but it's also made you vulnerable to people who might take advantage of that beautiful nature. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the typical embarrassing college stories and heartfelt wishes speech they'd expected. Emma's smile became strained, her grip tightening on her champagne flute. Marcus looked confused but still supportive, probably assuming David was building towards some meaningful point about overcoming challenges together. Which is why, David said, making direct eye contact with Emma, I think it's important that everyone here understands exactly what kind of person we're welcoming into our family today. That's when I stood up, my laptop already connected to the venue's projection system. David's right, I said loudly, my voice cutting through the confused murmur that had started rippling through the crowd. We should all know exactly who Emma really is. Emma's face went from pale to red to white again in the span of 3 seconds. Sarah, what are you doing? She hissed, but her voice was lost as I clicked the first slide of my presentation. Jake's face filled the screen. A professional headshot I'd pulled from his LinkedIn profile. This is Jake Morrison, I announced to the room of 300 guests. Many of you might remember him as my ex-boyfriend from college. What you don't know is that he's also been Emma's secret lover for over a year. The room exploded into chaos. Gasps, shouts of denial, confused questions, overlapping each other into a cacophony of disbelief. Marcus shot to his feet, his chair toppling backward. Sarah, stop this right now. What the hell is wrong with you? But I was beyond stopping. The next slide showed the photo I'd captured of Emma and Jake kissing at the rooftop bar, timestamp clearly visible. Then came the parking garage photos, the text message screenshots, the bank records showing Emma's withdrawals to pay for hotel rooms Marcus knew nothing about. Emma has been systematically stealing money from Marcus accounts. I continued, my voice somehow steady despite my shaking hands. She's been planning to leave him immediately after the wedding, taking as much as she could carry. This wedding isn't a celebration of love, it's an elaborate theft. Emma finally found her voice. These are fake, she shrieked, pointing at the screen with a trembling hand. Sarah's obsessed with me, she's jealous and vindictive, and she's making all of this up. But then the audio recording began to play. Emma's own voice, clear and unmistakable, laughing with her friends about Marcus being easy to manipulate, and calling the wedding her going-away party. The room fell silent except for Emma's recorded laughter echoing from the speakers. Marcus is so trusting. Her voice continued from that wine-soaked girls' night. He thinks he's getting the perfect wife, but I'm just using him until Jake gets his promotion. The poor idiot even gave me access to all his accounts. What a pathetic little puppy. Marcus sank back into his chair, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and slowly dawning horror. Our mother covered her mouth with both hands, tears streaming down her face. Emma's own parents sat frozen, their daughter's cruelty broadcast for everyone to hear. But the final blow came when Jake himself appeared in the doorway of the reception hall, looking around frantically. Emma, he called out, still believing she'd been in an accident. I came as soon as I heard. Are you okay? The pieces clicked together for everyone in the room simultaneously. Emma's secret lover hadn't just been conducting an affair. Had been convinced to crash the wedding by someone who knew exactly how to manipulate the situation. Emma's face crumpled as she realized the trap had closed completely around her. You, she whispered, staring at me with pure hatred. You planned all of this. I documented all of this. I corrected. You planned it yourself with every lie, every betrayal, every stolen dollar. I just made sure everyone could see who you really are. Marcus stood up slowly, his wedding ring already sliding off his finger. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but carried clearly through the silent room. Get out, he said to Emma. Take your lover, and get out of my wedding. Get out of my life. Emma made one last desperate attempt at control. Marcus, please, let me explain. Explain what? He interrupted, his voice growing stronger. Explain how you've been stealing from me? Explain how you've been planning to abandon me? Explain how you made me push away my own sister because she threatened your con game. The security guards Ryan had quietly alerted were already approaching Emma's table. As they escorted her and Jake from the venue, Emma turned back one final time. You'll regret this, Sarah, she screamed. All of you will regret this. But her threats felt hollow now. The truth was out, witnessed by everyone who mattered. Justice hadn't just been served, it had been served publicly, completely, and with perfect timing. The silence that followed Emma and Jake's departure was deafening. 300 guests sat in stunned shock, the beautiful reception hall feeling more like a crime scene than a celebration. Abandoned wedding cake sat untouched on tables, while empty champagne glasses reflected the crystal chandeliers overhead. The fairy tale wedding had transformed into something darker, more real, more honest. Marcus stood motionless at the head table, still wearing his tuxedo, still surrounded by white roses and gold ribbons, but looking like a man who'd just watched his entire life collapse. Our mother was the first to move, rushing to his side with tears streaming down her face. "Oh, honey," she whispered, pulling him into a fierce hug. "I'm so sorry. We had no idea." That broke the spell. Suddenly everyone was moving, talking, reaching out to Marcus with comfort and support. His college friends surrounded him with protective anger on his behalf. Our relatives expressed outrage at Emma's betrayal and admiration for my courage in exposing it. The venue staff, bless them, quietly began serving the dinner that had been prepared, understanding that people needed something normal to anchor them after such revelations. But not everyone was supportive. Emma's family remained seated at their assigned tables, faces flushed with embarrassment and anger. Her father, a stern man in his 60s, approached me with barely controlled fury. "You destroyed my daughter's wedding," he said through gritted teeth. "Whatever problems they had could have been worked out privately. Your daughter destroyed her own wedding the moment she decided to commit fraud and adultery." I replied steadily. "I just made sure Marcus knew the truth before she could steal everything and disappear." Emma's mother was crying into her napkin, but not from sympathy for Marcus. "How could you be so cruel?" she asked me. "Emma made some mistakes, but she didn't deserve this public humiliation. Marcus didn't deserve to be stolen from and betrayed." I shot back. He didn't deserve to have his trust exploited, and his love used as a weapon against him. Your daughter is a con artist who targeted my brother specifically, because he's good and trusting and loyal. The confrontation might have escalated, but Marcus himself intervened. Despite everything Head just learned, despite the devastation written across his features, he stepped between us with quiet dignity. "Mrs. Patterson," he said to Emma's mother, "I appreciate that this is difficult for your family too, but Sarah saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. Emma wasn't just cheating. She was stealing from me, lying to me, and planning to abandon me after taking everything she could. That's not a mistake. That's calculated cruelty." Emma's parents left shortly after, taking most of her wedding party with them, but surprisingly, many of the guests stayed. What had started as a wedding reception transformed into something unprecedented, a celebration of truth, of family loyalty, of justice served. People who'd had never met before bonded over their shared relief that Marcus had escaped Emma's trap. The mood shifted from shocked horror to protective warmth as everyone rallied around my brother. David made an impromptu speech about the importance of real friendship and family who tell hard truths. Ryan documented everything, saying later that Head never photographed anything more emotionally complex or ultimately satisfying. Even the venue staff seemed invested in Marcus' well-being, with servers discreetly checking on him throughout the evening. As the night wore on, Marcus and I finally had a chance to talk privately on the mansion's garden terrace. The reception continued inside, but we needed space to process everything that had happened between us over the past year. "I owe you an apology," Marcus said without preamble. "Actually, I owe you about 100 apologies. Emma was right about one thing. I was easy to manipulate. But she was wrong about why." I waited for him to continue, not trusting my voice yet. "I thought love meant putting your partner first in everything," he said slowly. "I thought being a good husband meant choosing your wife over everyone else, even family. Emma convinced me that you were jealous, that you were trying to come between us because you couldn't stand seeing me happy. And you believed her." I wanted to believe her because it was easier than admitting I could be that wrong about someone. Marcus' voice cracked slightly. "She made me feel like I had to choose between having her love and having your love. I chose wrong, Sarah. I chose the lie over the truth, the manipulation over genuine care." We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, listening to the distant sounds of conversation and laughter from inside. Despite everything, there was something oddly peaceful about this moment. The truth was out, the secrets were exposed, and we were talking honestly for the first time in over a year. How long did you know? Marcus asked eventually. I told him everything. The months of investigation, the carefully gathered evidence, the elaborate plan to expose Emma publicly. As I spoke, I watched his expression cycle through amazement, gratitude, and lingering hurt. You could have told me privately, he pointed out. Why the public revelation? Because Shed already proven she could talk her way out of anything when it was just between you and her, I explained. She was too smart, too manipulative. Shed have found a way to explain away the evidence, to make you doubt what you were seeing. This way, there were 300 witnesses. No room for gaslighting or manipulation. Marcus nodded slowly. She would have convinced me it was all fake or taken out of context. Even knowing what I know now, part of me wants to believe she really loved me and just made some bad choices. That's when I shared the final piece of evidence Id held back. Bank records showing Emma had already started transferring money to an account Jake controlled. She hadn't just been planning to leave Marcus after the wedding. She'd been actively stealing from him for weeks. The theft was already in progress. She was going to take everything, Marcus said quietly. My savings, the money my grandfather left me, even the down payment for the house we were supposed to buy together. She was going to leave me broke and homeless. The full scope of Emma's betrayal was staggering. It wasn't just adultery, or even garden-variety gold digging. It was systematic financial abuse designed to destroy Marcus' life completely, while funding her new relationship with my ex-boyfriend. The cruelty was breathtaking in its scope and precision. As we headed back inside to rejoin what had become an unexpectedly warm celebration, Marcus stopped me with a hand on my arm. Thank you, he said simply, for caring enough to do something this difficult, for loving me enough to risk everything to protect me. I don't deserve a sister like you. Yes, you do, I replied firmly. You deserve people who protect you and tell you the truth and have your back no matter what. That's what real love looks like. The wedding that was supposed to mark Emma's perfect con game instead became a testament to the power of truth and family loyalty. Justice had been served, but more importantly, Marcus was free. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a coffee shop writing this story, and I can honestly say that exposing Emma was the best decision I ever made. The aftermath was swift and decisive, in ways that satisfied my deepest desire for justice. Within 48 hours of the wedding disaster, Emma's employer launched an internal investigation into her work conduct. Turns out, her habit of working late had involved using company resources for personal projects and stealing client contact information to build Jake's competing business. She was fired for cause, which meant no severance package and no positive references for future employment. The financial investigation yielded even better results. Marcus pressed charges for theft and fraud, and the evidence I'd gathered made the case ironclad. Emma had stolen over $30,000 from various accounts, plus Shed opened credit cards in Marcus' name that Head known nothing about. The district attorney was particularly interested in the premeditated nature of her crimes. This wasn't impulse or desperation, but calculated theft designed to fund her escape plan. Jake, meanwhile, lost his promotion when his company discovered He'd been using inside information Emma provided to sabotage their mutual clients. The relationship that had seemed so worth destroying lives for crumbled under the pressure of unemployment, legal troubles, and the reality that their connection had been built on betraying other people. They broke up within 3 months, each blaming the other for their mutual downfall. But the most satisfying consequence was watching Emma face the social reckoning Shed never anticipated. The wedding guests included influential people from her professional network, her social circles, and her family's community connections. Word spread quickly about what had really happened, and Emma found herself ostracized from the very social climbing opportunities Shed been so desperate to maintain. Her Instagram account, once full of carefully curated lifestyle content designed to project success and happiness, went silent. The last post was from the morning of the wedding, a photo of her wedding dress with the caption, "Ready for my perfect day." The comments section became a brutal catalog of people who'd figured out her patterns of manipulation and were finally free to speak honestly about their experiences with her. Marcus, on the other hand, flourished in ways that surprised everyone. The friends Emma had convinced him to distance himself from rallied around him with incredible support. His college buddy David moved back to town, and they started a weekend tradition of hiking and trying new restaurants. Our family dinners resumed their old warmth without Emma's passive-aggressive commentary poisoning every conversation. Most importantly, Marcus learned to trust his instincts again. Had been so gaslit by Emma's constant manipulation that Head started doubting his own perceptions and feelings. Recovery from that kind of psychological abuse takes time, but watching him rediscover his confidence and judgment has been incredible. Has been dating someone new for the past 2 months, a kindergarten teacher named Lisa, who thinks his loyalty and kindness are features, not bugs to exploit. She loves that he's close with his family, encourages his friendships, and has never once made him feel like he needs to choose between her approval and other relationships that matter to him. It's beautiful to watch him experience what healthy love actually looks like. The legal proceedings concluded last month, with Emma pleading guilty to multiple felony charges. She received 3 years probation, substantial fines, and an order to pay full restitution to Marcus. More importantly, she now has a criminal record that will follow her into any future relationship or employment opportunity. The consequences aren't just temporary embarrassment, they're permanent markers of her choices. As for me, the experience taught me valuable lessons about family loyalty, personal boundaries, and the importance of trusting your instincts when something feels wrong. I'd spent months second-guessing myself, wondering if I was being paranoid or jealous or vindictive, but every instinct I'd had about Emma turned out to be accurate, and acting on those instincts saved my brother from devastating financial and emotional destruction. The family betrayal that started this whole story, Emma's systematic attempt to erase me from Marcus' life, ultimately backfired in the most spectacular way possible. She tried to eliminate the one person who could see through her manipulation, but instead she created the perfect witness to document her crimes. Her greatest tactical error was underestimating the sister she'd worked so hard to sideline. People often ask me if I regret how publicly I exposed Emma, if I think I went too far, or was too cruel. My answer is always the same. Emma chose to commit her crimes publicly, in front of family and friends who trusted her. She chose to steal money that belonged to someone else. She chose to plan an elaborate con game that would have destroyed an innocent person. I just made sure her choices had appropriate consequences. The truth is, I didn't destroy Emma's wedding day. I saved Marcus' life. The wedding was beautiful and perfect right up until the moment everyone learned it was built on lies, theft, and betrayal. Emma destroyed her own wedding the moment she decided to treat it as a cover story for financial crime and adultery. This experience taught me that sometimes family love means making difficult choices that hurt in the short term, but protect the people you care about in the long term. Sometimes justice requires courage, planning, and the willingness to be seen as the villain by people who don't understand the full situation. But mostly, it taught me that truth always wins in the end. Emma spent over a year crafting lies, building false narratives, and manipulating everyone around her. It seemed like she was succeeding, like her careful plans would give her everything she wanted while destroying Marcus in the process. But lies require constant maintenance, constant vigilance, constant energy. Truth just requires courage. Now, as I finish writing this story, I want to ask you something important. Have you ever had instincts about someone that everyone else dismissed? Have you watched a family member or friend get manipulated by someone who just felt wrong to you? Trust those feelings. Investigate carefully, document thoroughly, and don't let people gaslight you into doubting what you observe with your own eyes. Family betrayal cuts deeper than any other kind, because we expect the people closest to us to have our backs no matter what. But sometimes, protecting family means being willing to be temporarily hated for telling uncomfortable truths. Sometimes love looks like intervention, like exposure, like refusing to enable someone else's destruction. I'd love to hear your thoughts on family loyalty, justice, and karma in the comments below. Have you ever had to choose between keeping peace and protecting someone you love? How do you handle situations where doing the right thing means causing immediate pain? Drop your stories and perspectives below. I read every comment, and your experiences help other people going through similar situations. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life drama and justice-served moments. Share this video with anyone who's ever felt like they were going crazy watching someone they love get manipulated and abused. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is refuse to stay silent when we witness betrayal. Thank you for listening to my family's story, and remember, trust your instincts, protect the people you love, and never underestimate the power of truth to ultimately prevail over even the most elaborate lies. Justice might be delayed, but it's rarely denied when good people refuse to stay silent in the face of cruelty.